Mr. Kerr, will you give the invocation?
Let's bow our heads, please. We are so grateful for this time. We are so grateful to be in this country, Lord, where we can express our views, where we can be independent, and we can be fearless of our government. Lord, we thank you for the blessings that you've given us. We thank you for this Thanksgiving season. And may we always be mindful of those that have needs, and may we be conscious of that. Lord, be with this council as they deliberate this evening, and may their decisions be those that you would guide them to be. We pray all this in the name of your Lord, Jesus. Amen.
All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. I'll call this meeting to order, if you please call the roll.
Yes, Mayor J. Max Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Gebbia, District 4.
Present.
Councilmember Bates Madison, District 3.
Here.
Councilmember John Park, District 2.
Here.
And Councilmember Rebecca Chase Williams, District 1.
Present.
All present.
All right. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have no opening remarks. There are no agenda announcements. Public comment. First public comment section, Kathy.
Dawn Green.
As a reminder to press the, just a reminder to press the button to get your microphone on.
I'll just state my name or anything.
Just your name and your neighborhood.
Don Green, Brookhaven Gardens. On Tuesday, November 11th, my wife and daughter were in a car accident at the corner of Dresden and Ellijay. Besides taking over 20 minutes to respond, the officer was reluctant to give us the contact information for the driver of the car that hit my wife's vehicle. He kept telling us that the information would be available online in 5 days. When I kept asking him to provide the information, I could see that my wife was getting upset. So I asked him to at least give us the lady's driver's license and insurance policy number. So he wrote it on a piece of paper and ripped it off the pad that he had and handed it to my wife. When she looked at it, the officer didn't even write the lady's name on the piece of paper. She had to ask the officer for the lady's name. So when I got home, I checked the Edmunds car site, and item number 3 on their list of things to do after an accident is to get the contact information from the person that hit you. It says, after the accident, exchange the following information: name, address, phone number, insurance company, policy number, driver's license number, and license plate number for the driver and the owner of each vehicle. If the driver's name is different from the name of the insured, establish what the relationship is and take down the name and address for each individual. So after 5 days, my wife went online to get a copy of the accident report, and she was shocked to find out that she needed to pay $11 to get a copy. We're talking about the victim here. She decided to go pick up a copy at the police department instead and was still charged $5. So tell me, if someone got raped, would you charge them to get a copy of the police report? This is absurd. Now I want to know why the police officer was so reluctant to give the information that we wanted at the scene of the accident so that we could get hit up with these ridiculous charges. I want to know why the police officer was reluctant to give us information when all the experts tell you that you should get the information at the scene of the accident. What is the protocol they are required to follow? I know you can't comment, so I've got 55 seconds for a couple other items. Kusawati from Briarwood to Cortez, the road is only 19 feet wide, curb to curb, where there are curbs, and right now, parking is allowed on both sides of the street. If a car is parked on one side and another on the other side of the road will be blocked. There either needs to be no parking on one side of the street or the other. If you look at a garage door opening, it's 8 feet, so you got two 8 feet dimensions, and at least 3 feet for cars to pass through. It's not going to work. Brookhaven Park at the corner of Peachtree and Osborne. Are you aware that there is no pedestrian entrances into that park? If you want to enter the park on foot, you have to enter the park through the driveway. This is the most pedestrian unfriendly park there is in the Atlanta area. It is surrounded by fences with no pedestrian entrances.
Thank you. Chief, do you care to comment on what the speaker said?
No, if Mr. Green would come into the police station, we'd be happy to deal with any of the issues. We were unaware of it, and I can't answer any of the questions right now.
Is it our policy not to give driver information amongst? when there's an
Usually the drivers will exchange information, or the officer should provide the information.
Okay,
So
that's-
we'll
that's-
look into it. yeah.
Okay, all right. Richard, you heard the comments about the Kusawati being on both sides of the street, the
Yes.
parking. I mean, I think it's a pretty valid point that there needs to be no parking on at least one side of the street.
Right, and I think we've already started, I need to follow up with Chief on that, but I think we've already started discussions about that, about potentially making one side of that no parking.
With the signage?
Yeah, but we got to get through the ordinance, we got to go through the chief has to sign off on that before we can put the signs up, so I just
Okay.
have to follow up with him on that.
And Jerry, on Brookhaven Park, that's the front 10 acres of the property that still DeKalb County is still holding back from us. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So the fences in the entrance would be something that we don't control as of yet because DeKalb County still holds that 10 acres frontage property.
Right, and we've been talking and discussing that, having a front entrance where you can walk in.
Right. Thank you.
They receptive? Jerry? Are they receptive?
Yes, they want an entrance on the front.
How about getting our park from us? We need that, folks to call DeKalb County and say, give us the rest of our park. Any
Actually,
progress on that?
they still have all the park, Mayor.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pending our, resolution of trying to get the front part of the park, which
Any
is
progress on that?
none here as far as the fact that there needs to be an analysis of the existing structure to determine what the amount of the deferred maintenance is. Once that's done, then the city can decide whether it wishes to take the front parcel or not.
I mean, does the front parcel have to include the structure there? Or is that a separate part of DeKalb?
That was part of the discussion that was done when we had the meeting with the county a while back.
Right.
Their
That's the DeKalb
wheels,
service.
their wheels turn very slowly.
Right. That's, I don't want our negotiating position to be, we have to deal with that building. I would think our negotiating position should be, we want the 20-acre park, and the DeKalb Services Center, which is a separate department of DeKalb County, maintains that services center.
Well, that's what we originally proposed to them.
Right.
The services center is a maintenance issue for them, and they're looking to the city in order to take that over.
We don't have a DCS department.
No, but they would continue to do that and provide those services.
Right.
We would end up leasing it back, at least leasing the footpad back to them in order that they could provide it, other than they want the city to upgrade the building.
Yeah, I don't see what.
I can tell you that I could care less who owns that park as long as we can make the improvements to it. So the position I take is, let's act like that park is ours and make making
Adversely
improvements.
possess it. Yeah.
Legally, you'll have to talk about that.
You're kind of like an Oklahoma Sooner, that's what that is. You just go out there and
Squatter.
grab it.
This is a squatter thing. Go on there and make those improvements.
The solution, I think what the city's trying to do is get a solution to where you have the entire park, so you do have the opportunity to make improvements on the front part as far as making it a more presentable type park facility.
I don't, it sticks in my craw to say that we should have to take care of a building that's got that's a separate DeKalb County department, that why would we maintain their building that we don't, it's not part of our park system. It wouldn't be we wouldn't be able to use it for park activities. It's a separate.
I'm not, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. It's just
Okay.
a matter of trying, how can you negotiate to get the front part?
Well, that's.
And that's where, that's where we are.
Maybe you need to file something to get the parkland per the Georgia statute that says that they transfer all the park acreage over.
Well,
for-
that would be, that would
Large
be
an
the
acre.
point, but other than the fact that the two have been bifurcated for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time, and the park has been designated a park. We can certainly get the park in the back, and negotiate the easements with them, but we've been sort of waiting until they could come together and the city manager could come together to look at this facility and see what it will take and where the funding source will come from.
Yeah, I think that was part of another discussion, the maintenance of the building, as far as a land swap or something like that. I think that's dead now, and I think that us maintaining a building that we don't own, that's not a part of our park system, that's a DeKalb County department, is not in any way our responsibility, and I just want to make sure our position is that. And we probably need to discuss this because this is starting to get, it's been a year since we've taken over the parks, and I know their wheels move slowly, but we need to do something to speed that up on our end. And I think that just constantly hearing the same thing from the county is just not, we got to do something differently, I think.
Let me ask one other question about the first subject. Can we look into the ability to provide free copies at our police station, paper copies of crime reports for victims of crimes? Can we look into that and see if that's possible to change?
Okay, any more public comment?
Dale Boone.
All right, Dale.
Mayor, City Council, how are you doing?
All right.
30 to 24, by the way, just a reminder. Which brings us to specific thing of deferral. Deferral is a very big thing, especially the Georgia Tech game. If it had been deferral to the Georgia Tech game, I don't think we ever had a finisher or winner. It's to the point now that we're looking at two separate applications. One applications, which we see the costs and deferment agreement page, and it seems to be all set to go. There's no reason this should not go ahead and pass. To combine the two, it's not acceptable anymore to the District 4 voters. To have meetings outside of Brookhaven and outside of registered voters, it's not comprehending very well with those registered voters in District 4. It's to the point a lot of us are not listening to the registered voters, hence we brought a lot of registered voters with us tonight so that they may come up here and express the same thing out of their busy schedules that they have and explain to you very closely. When you're in town hall meetings with non-registered voters that have nothing to do with the annex land, nor the residents of Brookhaven, we should not be listening. We should be listening to what affects the citizens of Brookhaven. We lose these two pieces of property, 20 years down the road, we're never going to expand again. This is it. Y'all may think Buford Highway is going to be fixed. Hopefully before I'm in the nursing home, we can make some headway. And that's not a joke, it's seriousness. I've sit here over the last 10 years in 2003 and have watched Publix, Ryan's Steakhouse, Dunkin' Donuts, Captain D's, everybody leave my little section of Buford Highway. It's because the point is we're looking at the crime statistics. Our chief is doing the best that he can with the officers that he can have. With the addition of the annex, this chief, the greatest person I consider, because he's had his cards dealt, gets 5 additional officers. And one of those officers are down at Buford Highway, which helps us because they have to cross the bridge and help protect the new annex. The thing is, we got to have a vision to see. This all plays a role. We have 2 separate applications. one application is setting to go. Deferral means, A, we're not doing our job, or B, what is the holdup that the communications with the registered voters of Brookhaven do not understand? Now, when you have to answer your phone and pick up your phone constantly because they want to know what's going on, because of the fact that the media does not fully want to understand that they say the property cannot suit itself at its current condition. It cannot. But can that property suit itself once it is built up, once we have more income coming in? Yes, it can. So we're asking you,
Mayor,
the kindness
time.
of our heart, to pass this tonight. Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. Next,
Ronnie Mayer.
Ronnie.
Good evening, council and mayor and new councilman Parks. Thank you. I'm going to help y'all answer all the questions. I own probably the largest private towing service this side of Mississippi. We work a lot of wrecks. And I'm going to take the heat off the chief. No county, no municipality anywhere gives you the information. What I tell all my people at all these safety classes, when the wreck happens, get out of your car. Everybody has iPhones. Put your driver's license on the hood with your insurance card. Everybody take pictures, exchange information, because I tell them when the police officer gets here, he wants you in a safe location. He wants you by your car, and then once he leaves, it's done. So I tell everybody, when you're sitting there and you're waiting on that police officer, that's the time when you exchange the information. Because if not, just like every county, any municipality, you're going to wait 5 to 7 days. So I tell everybody, but if you're waiting 15 minutes for the officer, while you're waiting, get that information. Next thing, on our Brookhaven Park, for some reason, y'all had cotton in your ears because not once have I heard any of y'all mention, oh, the library, the Brookhaven Library. That's the reason DeKalb hasn't done anything, because I need to get y'all support to build the Brookhaven Library right there in the front of Brookhaven Park with a 9-foot sidewalk and a streetscape and to say Brookhaven Library. That's got that out of the way. All right, now we talk about Executive Park real quick. I'm not against it. I'm sort of really for it. I think it's a win-win for everybody. I still think we need not 5 officers, but another 10 officers for our side. I've met with the fire chief. We fed all the firemen on Dresden Drive on Thanksgiving, and I had the fire chief there, and I said, Chief Fulham, if we build a building or a parking structure at Executive Park, how would you like for me to try to arrange a donation of an area in a lower deck like at Phipps Plaza for another a pumper and a rescue truck to be in a lower level of one of their parking structures there, to have a fast response to 85 accidents and to Beaufort Highway, Druid Hills area. And to have another Brookhaven station would be great. I even threw the idea at the guys here this evening, and they didn't say no. They didn't say yes, but they said it might be a workable thing to train their EMTs, and it'd be a win-win. Their fire insurance would be a lot cheaper, and to have one more Brookhaven fire station right down there is a win-win for everybody. And remember, Brookhaven Library, 9-foot sidewalks right there. Thank you.
Dan Wright.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm glad to be going into public comment because I'm going to talk to you about 3 different things. First of all, I'm a member, and I may have told you this before, of the Blueprint to Redefine DeKalb Leadership Group. And I want to tell you that in the next couple of days, we will be sending legislation to a couple of legislators. And what we're asking for, because after all, everybody in this room, I guess we're all DeKalb residents, except maybe some professionals here. we're all still going to be in DeKalb County. And so what we're asking for, the Blueprint group, is that we establish an independent auditor, that we reform the Board of Ethics and the way that people are placed on the Ethics Board in DeKalb County, and that all the procurement policy be approved and adopted by the Board of Commissioners for the city manager, the CEO to run. So I just urge everybody to Google Blueprint DeKalb and look at it, and please endorse that so that we can persuade the legislators to change the organizational act and put those things in place. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is my neighbors. I told you I was president of Friends of Kittredge Park. Kittredge Park is in the middle of the tax allocation district that we've been talking about. The three neighborhoods that are sponsors for that organization are the neighborhoods around the TAD, and are the ones that we've all been talking about annexing or putting into different city units. And they are all overlapped by the Brookhaven annexation, any other residential Brookhaven annexations, the La Vista Hills boundary, and by the City of Atlanta annexation proposal. And then, of course, we're in unincorporated DeKalb. So all four of those entities overlap in our neighborhoods. So we're going to have a town hall meeting next Monday, and I'm going to post it on CAN if you remember that. Some of you I've contacted directly about speaking and being on the panel, but I urge everybody to come and let's talk about the issues for that area. I'm going to have the City of Atlanta there. I'm going to have a couple of you council members have agreed to come. I'll have DeKalb County Schools, the City of Atlanta School Board, and the La Vista Hills representatives, and of course DeKalb County representatives will all be there talking about the issues. Lastly, I want to also tell you about, you mentioned the TAD in a little more detail. I was on the original committee that wrote the technical requirements for the tax allocation district that we've been discussing. And I sat through many, many hours of discussions about what a TAD really is. And I just urge you to try to make sure that you're 100% clear on where the money goes and what you're going to be able to get, because I don't think the tax proceeds are going to go up for 30 years or whatever that duration is until the projects are done. And if the school board gets in and the agreement is to add more projects for them, that will just lengthen the time until there are any increased taxes for you from that district.
Thank you.
Jim McKechnie?
McKechnie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Jim McKechnie, 3110 Dixon Street Northeast. First, the good news. I don't have anything to talk about that involves Brookhaven, you as Brookhaven, but it involves the citizens of Brookhaven. A couple of days ago, I got this letter in the mail from the DeKalb Water, and I see that they're on the agenda tonight. And I was very surprised when I looked at the back. I have 5 months that I didn't use any water, but I remember paying my bill every single 2 months, so I guess I'm due a refund. But the main point why I'm standing up here is to talk about several years ago we had a severe water crisis, and we were asked by the DeKalb County to go ahead and cut back on our water usage, and we did that, and we were very successful at it. We were rewarded, Mr. Mayor, by having our water rates doubled because they couldn't keep up with, I guess, some projects that no one knows about. So I'm really hacked about that we're still paying double water rates, and yet we have no crisis. So that's the next thing. And I would also like to know, when he gets up here and speaks to the council, if they have any plans to go ahead and tap the Tennessee River watershed to get water down here for the City of Atlanta and DeKalb County, and make up its allotment. Now for the city, a big shout out to the chief. I took advantage of the residential check for the Brookhaven Police Department and was very, very happy with the results. My neighbors told me that there was a car almost parked in my driveway all the time, which I thought was pretty excessive on their part, but I appreciate that. And also the officer that did the checks made sure that it didn't look like no one was home. So all these little circulars and things that happen to show up, they moved them to the backyard, and I was very thankful for that. So thank you, Chief, so much. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Buddy Heckenbleichner.
Buddy?
Buddy cleans up real nice.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Buddy Heckenbleichner. I live in District 1, and I'm proud to have Rebecca Chase Williams as my councilwoman. Also know where J. Max lives. I've seen his house, so my neighborhood is not quite up to those standards, but I'm glad to know him as well. My address is 3617 Dewberry Court Northeast, which is next to Sunderland, and it's across the street from the Hampton Hall neighborhood. It's a cul-de-sac, which is off the freeway known as Johnson Ferry Road. I spoke to Ron Freeman at a previous council meeting, and our miles an hour is 35 miles an hour, and they track people up to triple digits heading to the hospital. That's not my big issue. My big issue is that, and there's a meeting tomorrow night about it, Kroger has proposed putting in a large gas station next to their Kroger store on Johnson Ferry Road. On one hand, the director of real estate says that he has 18,000 people to serve in that area, yet on the other hand, apparently, they've done a traffic study, says that that will only add an additional 84 cars. And somehow 18,084 don't quite balance out to me. I'd like to issue an invitation for the 5 of you to, I'll loan you books, I'll pay for your parking to go over to St. Joseph's about 4 o'clock, park, and 5 o'clock, leave the parking lot, turn left onto Peachtree Dunwoody, make another quick left onto Johnson Ferry Road. See how quick it takes you to get to Valero. It is unbelievable. And if there's problems on I-285, it's incredible. It can take up to 4 hours to make that, make that transition. So the neighbors, we also have all kind of people that are walking that sidewalk where the station would be, with kids in strollers, dogs, Maris runners, you name it. There'd be a ton of traffic in and out of that station. Kroger's implied that they have a very, or said apparently, that they have a very underperforming store, and I think the implication is that you should give us our gas station because we're kind of hanging by a thread, and our only option might be to close the store. Well, I think don't care for that. So I think they need to look inwards at re-merchandising the store, doing a variety of other things if it's underperforming. And we've got people in the neighborhood that could help them do that. So I'm also, one last second, I'm also for, even though I live on the opposite end of it, I like the idea a lot of annexing the executive park and the children's health care. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, buddy.
Mark Kuchera.
Hello, I'm Mark Kusera. I live at 3280 Cates Avenue in Linwood Park. I was one of the first ones in the neighborhood. I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone other than myself tonight, but I voted no for the city of Brookhaven for a very, I think, valid reason. And there was a lot of heated debate in Linwood Park, believe it or not. And where I live, everybody kind of congregates and we just chatter away. And they had their argument for yes, and I had mine for no. And the reason why I said no was that I thought that this community in this area of Brookhaven was sufficient. It didn't require any more empire building. And everyone on the yes side voted because they said, we have an opportunity to build a community. And Brookhaven, y'all are the way there. And they really wanted you to work and live and think about what your mandate was. And that was, they voted for you to do the police, the parks, the roads, keep their community safe. That was it. That's your mandate. They want nothing more. And November 4th, right before that, there were a lot of arguments about the referendum. And the more people I talked to, the more they said no. It was easy to convince them to say no because they don't want to build a large city. They want a community, and they want to keep it as simple as possible. And their biggest concern is where do you stop? You start doing annexation, and before you know it, everybody wants to join in, and where does it stop? And now we don't have Brookhaven. As a matter of fact, the logo of the city, which y'all designed, has a brand, and the brand is a neighborhood with a nice little flowing stream. And people really want to keep it that way. I don't think they want a big, giant Brookhaven. They want you to represent, they'd rather you argue about the height of weeds that's going to be on the agenda. That's what they really care about, I swear, and keeping things, clean and stuff like that. So I would like for y'all to really think about your purpose and your mandate, why everyone voted, and it was a slugfest, because you were there, and I was helping the other side no, because I was afraid of this very thing. As soon as you formed a city, guess what happened? Everybody's coming and wanting to partake, and now it's getting really complicated and fighting, and this isn't what we wanted. We want a community. So with all y'all fighting to extend it, I'm sorry, most people in this community didn't vote for that. And by the way, I apologize that there should be 1,000 citizens here, because I think this is really important. And if I'm the only one to speak on this side of the coin, I'm sorry for them not being here tonight, but I'm doing my best. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Kuniansky.
He defers. You don't want, next?
There are no others.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda?
Yes, we have one item, the approval of the November 18th City Council regular meeting minutes.
Okay. Your motion?
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda, the minutes of the November 18th, 2014 meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Announcements? Don't have any announcements. And we have a report and presentation from the DeKalb County water billing update. Stefan Jaskalak. Is that right?
Perfect.
All right. You have a remote, there you go. All right.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, council members, appreciate the opportunity to come here before you and speak about our water service billing update. I do want to start with apologizing for 2 weeks ago. We had a cold snap and subsequently a battery died and we could not make it. I apologize for that. But in the interest of time, I will give you a high-level overview as to where we've been, where we are now, and where we plan to go. A lot of the issues become very visible with customer phone calls not being answered, people not being able to get through, getting busy signals or calls being dropped. Hold times were excessively long, and that basically meant that we could not receive customers' concerns. If people cannot get through on the phone, they come down to our annex, our area, the Maloof building in downtown Decatur, which is also very congested. High water bills are an issue. We recognize that. And I also believe that customers would like additional information from the county regarding their water bills, regarding their consumption, but also regarding leaks and possible billing errors on our side. First step we took was to increase our staff in the call center. Okay? We increased it from 20 to 55. That way we are able to receive your calls. We now have new service level agreements. We have trained people. We are continuing to train people. A lot of the calls right now are being answered very quickly. Sometimes that does mean that we need to take a message as to what the concern is and turn that over to a research group. This graph here will show you exactly what happened. For most of the year, you will see on the total calls, which is the green line, is very high, and then the blue line, which is the abandonment rate. That means people hanging up in the queue because our wait times were too long. Towards the end of October, we went from the 20 to 55 people, and what you see is our performance, our abandonment rate, so people hanging up because the wait was too long, went to almost zero. Our call volume went up, which means that we were able to answer more calls, and we did answer more calls. The second graph, this graph here, shows you our average speed of answer, which is actually the green line in this case. And you can see that, and that's in percentages, actually in seconds, I'm sorry. You can see that it went all the way to the top in September, and then November it is down to, if I have to guess, I would say 15, 20, 30 seconds. At the same time, the other line went up to an area where it needs to be. So we have addressed that part of the issue. In September, we instituted a temporary moratorium on water disconnections as part of the concern of increased water bills. We went through our database and identified about 5,600 residents countywide with bills that averaged more than double their normal average. And we took the 1 year, kicked out the high, kicked out the low. If you were more than double that, we put you in that 5,600 customer category. So far, we have researched about 93%. And we plan to finish this by December 15th, which is in 2 weeks. And then any variances, any root cause will be communicated back to those 5,600 customers. And that could be leaks, but it could also be irrigation usage or just inaccurate meters or estimated bills, which is on our side. Consumption reports. As part of our outreach, we have sent all 180,000 customers consumption reports. That is currently not part of the regular bill design. I know a lot of other water jurisdictions do have a graph on their bill. We don't have that yet. Proactively, we sent this to everyone, and it includes a history of everybody's usage for 18 months. So people can see year over year, summer over summer, winter over winter, what the usage has been. We do plan to add this to our bills in the first quarter of next year. So it'll be a standard feature. This is what the consumption graph individually looks like. This is a graph for somebody who's on a monthly billing cycle. Most people in the county are on a bi-monthly billing cycle, so that means that every other month there is no bill, right? And that would mean that it would show zero consumption in the month when there is no bill, because it's on a bi-monthly cycle. Onboarding Veolia, we have the county watershed department has engaged Veolia. That is a very internationally recognized water company. They are helping the watershed department go through our processes, procedures, efficiencies, etc. They are now also helping us in the call center to help manage customer interaction and expectations. We are redesigning our interactive voice response system to reduce wait times and to serve the customers better. We are also integrating our softwares better so that our customer service representatives can pull up the customer's information quicker. And of course, we are redesigning our internal, our bill, and also providing customers with a portal where you can pull up your bill going forward. That will be 2015. 60 satellite payment locations. We used to have only one payment location where people could walk in and make a payment. That is in downtown Decatur. Bless you. Very congested, a small parking lot. But we now also have the ability to take your water payments at Kroger's, Citgo's, Walmart's. There's about 60 satellite locations around the county. And locations can be found on our website, and we also have trifold brochures that we have available for clients. Town hall presentations, as part of our outreach, we are available for any town hall presentation, any meetings, provide information, also such as tonight. We plan to ramp up communications even further, in addition to the consumption graphs that we have sent out, in addition to redesigned bill. We also are updating our list of FAQs, and we will also provide more information as our research continues. So what really are the next steps? So far, I've kind of told you what we've done so far, but we're not there yet. We're far from there. We are continuing our staff training. Okay. I mentioned earlier, sometimes if a new person answers the phone, they will need to refer the customer over to a research group. The plan is to resolve that on first touch. And we are also establishing performance metrics, similar to the graphs, but also down to an individual level, just to make sure we stay on top of it. Communication, we have the satellite payments. We're doing the bill redesign. We will continue our customer outreach, website updates, help with water conservation tips, and also with leak detection. On the operations side, we are looking into our hours of operation. Right now it is from 8:30 to 5, which means that most people will have to contact us during work hours. We'd like to see if there is an appetite for the ability to do that after work hours or before work hours. Reduce repetitive monthly or bi-monthly bill estimates. There are too many bills being estimated, and that is a result of water meter reading issues. Bill estimates typically catch up one way or the other. If you estimate it for 1 month, the next month you might have a catch up because estimates are never right. Okay. Quality control of full billing cycle, I think that is the most important part, because that really gets us from beginning to end, from the meter reading, making sure that that is done accurate for all different meters. We have radio meters, we have touch meters, we have visual meters. There's a lot of different types of meters. We need to make sure that that gets more and more accurate so that it winds up in the system accurately, and that the bill audit and then subsequent bill sent to customers is accurate.
Questions?
Questions?
I was one of the victims of estimate billing. I have 2 meters, I have an irrigation meter and a regular meter. My irrigation meter was anywhere from $200 to $400 a billing cycle during a period when my irrigation system was broken, but not leaking, but just not working, so I wasn't using it. And so I was paying these $200 and $400 bills, and then I guess my last bill that came after all the hullabaloo about this, my bill was $6. So kind of what Mr. McKechnie said, is there a way to go back and recapture that money? Because it seems like, you talked about y'all doubled your call center staff, and
right.
You're doing all kinds of things to increase customer service. Was there no relation to the actual bills being charged to the actual services being provided? Because it would seem that if you're charging these exorbitant bills and getting horrible to no customer service and no service from that end, that you got all this extra money because you weren't doing anything about customer service. You weren't paying the extra 30 staffers. So what I'm trying to figure out, is there a plan to reimburse people or to fix the wrongs that you just started talking about with the estimated billing? I mean, I was overcharged. How do I get my money back?
That's a good question, because the longer you wait with disputing the bill itself, it's very difficult to go back in time.
Well, I disputed them every time, but how do you dispute They reduce it sometimes, but not based on any reality, just because basically the goodwill of the call operator.
Well, one procedure that we do have is if there is a leak and it is fixed by a plumber, and that invoice is shown, we will adjust at least 2 billing cycles.
Yeah, and I get that.
And help the customers out with that.
Right, and I understand that. And I appreciate you coming here, I really do, because this has been a very frustrating issue, not just for me, but for lots of citizens who have been emailing me about their billing issues. And
Absolutely.
And they're still getting cut notices. I know that I saw the moratorium expired October 15th, but some resident emailed me just yesterday with a $700 bill, and they got a cut notice, and their bill hadn't been resolved. So these are the types of issues that are the most irritating, is when you're taking money out of people's pockets and you're not proving to them that's the amount they owe. As a matter of fact, you're saying that's not what you owe because you have an estimated bill. I'm just, I'm going to get questions about this, and I have a question about it, is how do we make right what was done so wrongly for the past year or two? Is there any plan, or is it just you get to keep all that money you overcharged and never give it back? And
Well, no, I mean, there is, what do you call it, the burden of proof. If there is a leak and it's identified.
no leak.
No, but
Not talking about a leak situation at all. I'm talking about estimated bill situation.
estimated bills, there is a beginning reading somewhere, there was estimate for a number of billing cycles, and then there's an ending read, and that can be analyzed and calculated, because the beginning and end point of one reading versus another, you can calculate that difference. And if there is a refund due, of course.
All right. So is there a special way to get that done, to calculate the end? And I mean, your meter doesn't go up to $1 million and reset. It resets, it resets every month, right?
Yeah, we are.
So how do you go back and have read when you were overcharged?
We're looking to engage someone to do a meter audit to make sure that the meters are accurate and functioning properly. In some cases, that'll mean that the meter will be changed out. In some cases, it means that the meter is accurate.
Mine are new meters.
And I hope that they're functioning.
I'm sure they are, but nobody was reading them. That's the point. I was getting estimated.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to keep grilling you about it, but do you understand my problem and question, that it's not just me
No.
who has that issue? My bill every month said estimated bill, and.
That's something that I'm looking into.
But when they
really
started
stopping.
reading my meter, it went to $6.
Yeah. That's probably the normal connection charge, the $6, with no usage.
I mean,
Yeah.
could be, yeah.
Or next to no usage.
Right, and I didn't use it before then. All right, I'll get to let you off the hook right now.
No, I will email you.
Okay.
And we will look into your bill, and it will calculate it. I mean, if there is an overcharge because of estimates, we will adjust
If you
that
could please do that.
and work on that, of course.
And everybody else who's having an issue, not just for me, but.
And I have forms, sorry, not to interrupt you. I have forms here with me. I will wait a few minutes, and if anybody in the audience would like to fill one out, there will be a research form.
Okay.
So that we have the address, the name, the information, and I can put that in the works.
Thank you.
Can you leave a
Absolutely.
copy of that with our clerk here, so we will have a record of how
Absolutely.
people want to request it through us, we can forward it at least?
absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. If you had made the statement that, okay, you'll do an estimate, and then the second month, do a meter read?
Right.
Is that the longest period of time there is between meter reads?
Well, the county is divided up into 36 books or zones. And 2 of the zones are on a monthly cycle. The other 34 zones are on a bi-monthly cycle, so it's read just about every 60
Okay.
days. give or take.
So if a person has a $700 bill that they're claiming is an error, within 60 days, it should be whatever it really is, because you're doing a meter read on the outside parameters.
It should be.
Okay.
It should be.
So do you have a policy that says you cannot issue a disconnect unless you have a valid meter read to validate that that is a correct charge? And because if somebody gets a $700 bill, they're complaining that this is not right.
Of course.
But yet they get a disconnect notice.
Right.
There's something there that's just it's not working right.
And they shouldn't, and they're having to call me to say, what can we do about this? And then I'm forwarding to the commissioners, and the commissioners are having, I mean.
I've seen a number.
So-
They usually wind up with me.
So really, the question is,
Actually.
at what point do you move to disconnect. You have to have a, what is it?
If there is no communication from the customer, nobody calling in and saying, my water bill is incorrect, we need to do something, what can we do? We will issue, if they do call, we will issue a request to reread, make sure the reading itself was accurate. We will discuss investigation for possible leak. So anything up to and including the meter is the county's. Anything after the meter, any leak is for the resident. And we will discuss it and then stay or extend the time for cut pending that dialogue and that investigation.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, that sounds fair. At least you have an open
I'm
attitude.
still getting people, the Kramers over in Ashford Park emailed me. They got a cut notice with the $700 bill, and they had estimates, and, you know, they're gonna get cut today. I mean, it took an email to the commissioners, you know.
I saw the email today.
I know y'all are, you are under duress with all this. issues.
I want to fix this.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's apparent, and we appreciate you being here. What is your success rate in addressing the high number, apparently, of people that have been complaining about this?
Well,
I mean, I see your call ratios going up and everything, but what is your success rate in actually resolving the issue?
it's pretty high. The problem is right now, we're doing it on an ad hoc, one-by-one basis. Part of my approach is to address the questions and the concerns from the citizens, but at the same time, fix the system in the process so that we reduce the number of issues, questions, and errors going forward. I think that's very important because if the only thing I do is answer people's questions, I will continue to do that until I retire. I want to get to a point where people don't have to call,
Yes.
where there are no issues, or very few. There'll never be any no issues because we have 180,000 customers. But I want to reduce that and work with people as best we can and also provide tools, self-help, investigation, FAQs, and really make it such that it becomes a non-issue.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience for the Terrell?
If 90% of the 5,600 plus has been reviewed, what was the outcome?
We have,
I'm going to repeat the question so people watching this on stream can hear it. If 93% of the 5,600 people were
reviewed,
what
was the outcome?
What was the outcome? Right, thank you.
I don't have the exact statistics, and we're almost done. We'll be done by December 15th. And by that point, we'll also start sending letters to all 5,600 as to what the outcome is. Meanwhile, we've had dialogue, I hope, on most or all. There are a couple different categories. Leaks was a fair percentage of it. Customer leaks that didn't realize it, or consumption, or sprinklers going off at 4 a.m. when everyone's asleep, and you don't notice that. I mean, I wouldn't notice that. There are also issues with the estimates. There's a fair percentage of that. And just misreads. And I don't know if that's as simple as upgrading the meter or getting somebody glasses. I don't know. I mean, it depends on which meter it is and which zone it is, of course. And that's where I'm getting also with my quality control, where I want to get the meter reading and the billing upload to the point where it's seamless and accurate. Because if it goes inaccurately, your bill will be accurate.
Can you give us your contact info?
Absolutely.
Just for the record.
Oh. My phone number is 404-371-2765. My email address, it's a little bit long-winded, sjaskulak@dekalbcountyga.gov.
JSKULAK?
Correct.
Okay. And then, can you make this presentation you did, can you forward us?
Absolutely.
Can we post it on our Facebook and on our website? Thank you. All right.
I do want to make one quick comment. I commend you for taking the steps that you outlined here. I think those are some very positive moves that your department is taking. I certainly hope that you continue to follow up with these things and keep those staffing levels at a level that addresses the customer service problems. The one thing I would disagree with is that you mentioned the firm you are bringing in to address some automation of your telephone system, Valerio or?
Veolia?
Yeah. I would simply give my 2 cents that automated customer service response systems are while they might seem very efficient, very annoying to customers calling specifically when they have complaints to make. And that live operator really does do a job if you can somehow keep that personal interaction in a time where you get where high touch sensitivity in your department is under the microscope.
I thought they were there to help improve that one aspect of your customer service, and then they were talking about other things too, were they not?
Right.
So they're not an automated customer service company, they just.
No. Right.
Well, one of the things that you said that they were working on, or did I misunderstand?
Well,
they were working on that one aspect to try to make it better, because they're going to have automated response no matter what.
Right, because when you call, there is a decision tree, press 1 for option A, and it keeps on
Hopefully,
going.
say eliminate that. Hopefully, they
Well,
will.
hopefully the decision here will be press 1 for an operator immediately. That's what, that would help.
We're trying to shorten it up to the point where you will get an operator quicker.
Yeah.
But also, to give you an example, when we were not able to answer all the calls and you would get a busy signal,
Right.
there is a way to pay the phone, to pay your bill on the phone, right?
Yeah.
If you cannot get through on the phone line, you cannot get into that part of the automated payment system, which then creates an issue where people cannot pay their bill, then it gets cut notices, or it requires a trip to downtown Decatur, which shouldn't be necessary either. So we fixed all of that. We're trying to, it's like peeling back the layers on the onion and really getting down to the core of it. Improved customer service will mean that the decision tree will be shorter and you will get to where you want to go quicker.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're running about a 3% complaint rate now, of 5,600 on 180,000 customers. That's what you said, right? You have 5,600 complaints?
No. The audit, we looked at all the people in all 180,000 and kicked out everybody's high bill and low bill for 1 year. So that means we have basically four bills left. If your bill at that point, when we took that average, was more than double your average bill, you were part of the 5,600. If it is a normal seasonal, because it was right at the end of the summer, so you would have more watering, more consumption. If you're within line, you would not be part of that 5,600. Doesn't mean you wouldn't have a complaint or a question or an issue, but at least we wanted to address those that were more than double, and there were people in the 500% category. Most of those were leaks, right? Because it's undetected under driveways or under trees, you wouldn't detect that. So that's where the 5,600 came from.
I got you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. We
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And just, bosses, we appreciate you letting them.
I'll pass it on. Thank you.
Public hearing items. Public hearing items.
Yes, we have the fiscal year 2015 budget. We discussed this during our work session, and I'd like to just go through it.
Sure.
At this point. We are expecting to operate in 2015 with a $31 million budget, actually $31,389,767. The majority of the, can you put that on? Okay. The majority of the funds will be coming from what we call our general fund, which principally is made up of a whole host of revenues, including property taxes and personal property taxes. We're trying to get this up. There's a couple of pie charts that I'd like to include. Out of those series of revenues, $19,500,000 is the proposed budget amount. From there, can you go to the next?
Next slide.
Right, next slide. You can see the revenues. I'd like to point some of them out. Property taxes estimating at $5.5 million. That is up a little bit from last year's budget. You can see that it represents 28% of the total budget. This is a conservative figure because we believe it may even be higher than that since our digest has been growing substantially in the last 2 years. Our host rate has also increased, comparable to the increase in the digest, and so we did decide to lower that figure just a bit so that when we get to mid-year budget adjustment, we can take a look at the real trends of what we see coming in. But for now, it's 5.5 million. We started out at the beginning in 2013 with 5.1 million, and then we made some adjustments to that for the first mid-year budget adjustment. Other things that we're bringing in more than we have in 2 previous years will be franchise fees and, let me see, look at this on my sheet. Franchise taxes, $2.5 million. That includes some additional franchise fees that we're now getting. Principally, that's Georgia Power and the cable franchise fees. We're working with AT&T on the video. We have an amount in that 2.5 that we expect to come in. That's much lower than the normal cable franchise. Cable franchise, just to give you an estimate, it's about $635,000 a year for us. You can take a look at our insurance premium taxes, $2.6 million. Those are paid annually as a lump sum payment in October of each year. We received our first one for 2014. The $2.6 million reflects an increase in that revenue. And can you scroll down to see if we can capture the chart? The graphic here just gives you a sense of the proportion of revenues and where they're coming from. Basically, total taxes, and this includes property taxes, personal taxes, the ad valorem for vehicle taxes, intangible taxes, real estate transfer taxes. So that makes up that 75% of the total taxes. And then you can see through the rest of the chart that the other revenues are spread out from grant revenues, which represents about 1%. We do expect over time, as we qualify and become eligible for other grant programs, that will increase. Fines and forfeitures right at 6%, licensing and permits at 8% of the total revenue capture. You can go to the next page. The next page looks at expenditures, and the expenditures principally capture all of the departments, and these categories, while some are very familiar to you, others may not be, and I'll point out, as I did in the work session, housing and development is our community development, and this follows the chart of accounts, the uniform chart of accounts. But again, Parks and Rec, we all know what that is, Public Works, and again, the housing and development. General government services includes finance and administration, mayor and council, city management office. It includes information technology. So all of those together are $5.4 million, representing 28% of the total expenditures. You can see in judicial, which is our court, their proposed budget is at $575,000. Public safety, which is our police department, $7.7 million. Public Works at $1,019,000, and Parks and Recreation, $1.6 million. And I did want to reiterate, as I mentioned in our work session, that this does not include the major capital improvements for our park system. This is including maintenance and repair. It includes the operational costs of the department with manpower and the facilities that we operate. The Community Development Department includes community development, code enforcement, building inspections, and that budget is at $2.2 million. We have a contingency of $250,000 that will be added to our $3 million that we have in reserve. We expect that will be increased more, but we'll wait till mid-year budget adjustment where we can have more confidence of those amounts and as we watch each department budget. Other financing uses, the 541 is debt service. That represents loans coming in and the expenditures of those loans going out as we service the debt. So $19.5 million. So we are capturing our revenues and expending those through departments. This pie chart just gives you an example. You can see public safety representing 40% of the total expenditures, general government 28, and again, that's several different departments. Okay, go to the next slide. The next slides are breaking down different fund accounts. Revenues under forfeitures, $2,500. Typically, we get a little bit less than this, sometimes a little bit more in our last 2 years. Small equipment at $2,500 under expenditures. The next category, revenues, if you'll recall, this past fall, we converted and switched over from DeKalb County 911 to Chatcom, and we have a multi-year agreement with them. Our first year is a fee of $938,333 for the service. We're showing the revenues collected and the expenditures for that amount. Now, when we first talked about this over a year ago, about switching and what the cost would be, it was stated, and I made mention of, that the 911 fees collected never pay the full cost of the 911 service, and that we expected and planned for, and we have in our budget, to cover that shortfall, which we expect to be a couple of $100,000. However, we'll be conducting an audit to be sure that all the carriers that service customers here in the Brookhaven area understand that the 911 fee that is charged on telephone bills is remitted back to the city of Brookhaven. So we expect and believe that there are a number of carriers, smaller carriers, that are not aware that there's been a switch from sending the money to DeKalb as opposed to sending it to us. Go to the next page. The next fund account is our hotel motel tax. And we are proposing and showing that we expect $1.8 million to come in. This also is a conservative figure because we have a new hotel that opened recently, which is the Hyatt up at Villa Cristina. And this does increase the overall collection rate of what we had from last year, but we believe and are confident that we'll receive $1.8 million. Now, because of hotel motel tax law, 60% of that can be deposited. Well, actually, all of it is deposited into the general fund. 60% can be kept in the general fund. The general fund then disperses or transfers 40% of that $1.8 million into the tourism budget, and our charter calls for and creates a Visitors Bureau, Convention and Visitors Bureau. We'll be coming back to you very soon within the next month with an ordinance creating the CVB board, and we'll ask for appointments from the mayor and council to serve on that board. That board will then set the budget for the tourism and marketing arm for the city as they promote activities and events to bring people into the city to spend nights in our hotels. And in the industry, it's called heads and beds. So you'll see more detail of that once we can create the CVB. Next sheet is our anticipated collection for homestead, $6.3 million. We are still in the process of collecting the host funds, and we'll get our last check in January, which should be over $1 million. If that holds true, as the county has informed us, then we will be right at the $6.3 million for 2014. And if you'll recall, back at our mid-year budget adjustment, I told you that we were expecting an additional $1 million. And if that does come through, then I'll come back, because then we'll be able to look at projects that we were not able to complete in 2014 budget and decide how you would like to expend that. But for right now, we're going to use the same figure of 6.3 for the 2015 year. It's been broken down. You can see that the capital outlay, and this is for capital projects. However, planning and engineering is an acceptable charge as long as there's a nexus to an actual capital improvement. So you just can't do plans and do nothing to implement and construct those plans. So capital outlay for Parks and Recreation is $2.9 million. Of a portion of that, we are looking at developing master plans for our parks. We'll be coming back to the council with a more delineated budget and seeking your priorities as to which parks you want to have planned, and then from there, we'll be able to budget the capital improvements that go with those plans. Under public safety, this is the first time we are budgeting directly for public safety, $315,000. It's my intent to get away from borrowing funds to purchase police cars, and this would be used for some small equipment, also police cars, as well as the chief has been talking about body cameras. We know that a number of agencies throughout the United States are now starting to look at that, so that could be a possibility as well. Under Public Works, $3,024,000. That goes for capital improvements for roads, sidewalks, infrastructure improvements. So totaling three of those categories takes us to the $6.3 million. Okay, next page. Next one, okay. The next page, again, is the revenue, and this is the transfer from the general fund whereby we receive a loan, and this is to service the debt for our police vehicles. And so this money comes in from the loan on the outside, goes into the general fund, and then is dispersed and expended out of the general fund to service the debt. So it's money in, money out, $514,000. The last sheet is the stormwater utility. This is an enterprise fund, and that money is collected as part of the collection of taxes through the county. It's a separate line item on the tax bill for a utility charge. The charge that we have is $60 per year per residential property, and there is a formula that equates to residential units on the commercial side on the size of impervious surface. So $2.3 million, we're looking at that to be brought in. Of course, there is some carryover from last year and expending the $2.3 million in 2015. Now, I would like to also just go over some of the different budgets because you all have asked for the backup sheets, and I will be supplying those to you. I think it's important to go over at least the different departments, if I may. Be sure I'm getting the right sheet here. And then we'll have the backup information, and again, I do want to explain that. On information technology, and I don't have a slide here for you, our proposed budget, now again, this comes under the $19.5 million. So, you know, these are the separate budgets where we have, let's see, if you go back to the slide, let's see, the slide that shows expenditures for each of the departments.
A function?
Yes, expenditures by function.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Okay.
It's page 3.
All right. And I'll just go through this, and where it's not listed individually, it's part of the general government or general services. Information technology, we are showing $551,000. Finance, and that is down from mid-year budget of $618,000, and we'll post this. Finance and administration is $2.2 million, and that includes a number of our facilities and purchasing managers housed in there, our accounting function is there, our revenue collection, our permitting agents are out of, some of them are out of this fund too, and then others are out of community development. Under the city manager's budget, it's $1,087,000, and I want to explain that because the department has grown. There's now a full-time assistant city manager. There is the sharing of the executive assistant with myself and the mayor and council. There's also an additional administrative assistant serving the department because we now have HR under the city management department. The legal department is $650,000, and that is up from $538,000 from the previous year. An explanation of that is we are combining all legal services from other departments under the direction of the city and city attorney. There is some litigation that's in there, and then also some special professional services under legal that are outside of the realm of the city attorney's office, but managed by the city attorney. Community development, which is shown here on the pie chart as housing and development, is $2.2 million. And remember, community development has a number of functions. It has the city engineer, land management and development. It has building inspections. It has code enforcement. It has permit clerks and planners under the community development. 2.2 million. Municipal court is up from 500,000 last year, or this is mid-year budget, to 575,000. Mayor and council is up from 237,000 to 331,000. That principally includes all of the elected members, including special project funds that each of you have, and then that of $25,000 each for your district, as well as the funds as part of that $25,000 is called out for in the charter to assist you. City clerk is $262,115 for a full-time city clerk and deputy clerk, as well as a part-time records management person, very part-time at $10,000. Public Works, which is administration and maintenance, is $1,019,000. Communications is $322,857. There is an increase there because the mailing of newsletters, we've increased that because we've increased the frequency of the newsletters. We're also hosting another website. We're looking at converting the vendors there to employees, and then we're looking at other special publishing editions, such as the annual report, which we expect to come out of the first quarter of 2015. Parks and Recreation is $1.6 million. Very close, $1.68 million in the mid-year budget adjustment. Police is $7.7 million, up $700,000. That does include, should the annexation go forward, that includes the 5 police officers that will be funded by the applicants. It also includes funding that we're receiving from the recent agreement with Pink Pony for the offset to the public safety. So that comes, those funds come into the general fund, and then they are earmarked or restricted to public safety.
But that doesn't include the $315,000 capital outlay that's in the host.
No, it does not.
So the police budget is really $8 million.
Correct. Correct. Contingency, $250,000, and we're showing that our current figure is $3 million for purposes of rounding it up, rounding the figure, but actually it's 3.2. So that would take us to almost $3.5 million in reserve. And then our debt services, as I explained earlier, is $541,000.
All right.
And that is our budget.
All right. We'll open the public hearing.
I have no comments.
Oh. For the first budget hearing, no public comments? All right. Anybody have any questions for staff or anything? Okay. We had a lot of questions earlier today in our work session.
Let me just clarify the timing on this. We'll be seeing the backup detail for all of it by next week or 2
Yes.
weeks? Okay.
Yes, by mid-next week.
And then this will be the, I guess it's the first reading tonight, or
This
the
is the first public
public
hearing.
hearing?
And then the second public hearing,
Will be on
and
the
for your
8th.
consideration of adoption is December the 16th.
Okay, so we'll be able to put that up on the website so
Yes.
people can
Yes.
look at it and chew on it?
This is already on, it's in the agenda packet. Did this go on the website already, Michael? Yes, it's on both websites already.
Okay, but
And
the
so we'll
details
include-
too, I think is
Yes, we'll
what
get the details.
everybody wants to see.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
great.
I would like to point out, earlier there was mentioned about our mission and goal for the city is really based on 3 things, and that's police, parks, and paving. I think that's what, I was in favor of Brookhaven for, and I think we all, I'm going to get you guys in order over there. I think it's important. So we know that, I think people have seen the police, obviously, in the community, and they've seen the paving going on, even near where the gentleman that pointed that out lives in Linwood Park just recently with Windsor Parkway. And you see in our budget that our just for capital outlay in the Parks Department is $3 million. When we were talking about forming the city, I never could have imagined that we'd be spending $4.678 million a year on parks. In less than 2 years, that's what we're proposing is almost $4.7 million on parks. So when we talk about what our mission and goal is, whether there's an annexation or not, I think we're hyper-focused on police, parks, and paving, and I think the results on the paving and the police and the parks are starting to speak for themselves this spring. But we've seen huge improvements and huge strides, and I want to thank staff, police staff, park staff, public works staff, administrative staff, for getting those goals focused for us and helping us get them done. We can always improve. We're still going to be improving, but I think this next year, starting in January, we're going to start seeing a lot more. We've seen results, but we're going to see a lot more results because our focus is on action this year. And it has been, but this is the first real year of a full budget cycle for us. We've got our 911 now. We've got, police is set up. We got everything clicking now. And I think this budget, there are going to be some tweaks and changes to it, but I think this budget reflects that the priorities that the people expect from us, I think those are being met. And we can do several things at once, but I think all of our minds, the most important things are the three Ps there. So nothing happens before we look at those things, and those things get funded first. So I want to applaud staff for their help in getting that done. We all have ways to improve, and the staff's going to improve this year too. But I'm just excited about this year because I think people are going to start. If some people have been impressed, some people may be unimpressed, but I think this year is going to be hard not to say that the city is doing well when it comes to the things that are most important to our community. So thank you for Marie for getting this all together, and we'll look forward to talking about it in the next couple weeks.
Let me ask you one quick question, Marie. I thought that we had a process for 3 public hearings on the budgets, and we had talked about one being, we had some time issues where we said, look, at least one of them has to be either during normal daytime hours or outside of hours. Remind me again, what was the policy?
Susan, you're going to have to help me because that was the code that you looked at.
Yes. By state law, we're only required to have one public hearing.
Right.
And we have 2 public hearings, and one has to be after 6:01 PM, which
That's
we're
an
doing.
after hours.
I think in the first year, we did have 3
Yeah.
because everything was so new, but
Right.
our policy says 2.
Okay.
You may be thinking of the millage rate also. We had
We had 3
several of
hearings on that one?
those. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Close the public hearing. Next item, K, old business.
Right, ordinance 2014-11-03, consideration and approval of an ordinance annexation 14-01, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, located in land lot 153 and 156, 18th District, DeKalb County. Mr. Song has comments on that.
I'll keep it short. Again, this is regarding Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, comprising 59.5344 acres. The public hearing has been held. Obviously, it's up to the mayor and council to open up the public hearing if you'd like, but we have met that requirement.
Okay. Give a quick update to folks. We've been chewing on this for a few weeks now. We have gotten an agreement with Children's Healthcare for payment for services that we'll be providing to Children's Healthcare in the annexation area. It's over the holidays, it was kind of hard to get some of these things finalized. We've got it tonight. We posted earlier the 2 agreements that we were hoping to have signed tonight. The Children's Healthcare agreement, there's some more changes to it. we just feel like we need a little more time to, for our residents and for us to move forward with this. I think we're all in agreement that we do need a little more time, because it's so important to make sure that all the items are covered that our citizens expect of us from what our goals were from the beginning, that if these parcels could finance their own service costs, then that would be a good thing for the city of Brookhaven. We think that they both will, and we're confident of that. It's come up that the two different entities, Children's being mainly nonprofit, and then Executive Park being, and nonprofit being Children's being not really non-tax-paying or very little tax-paying, that whole parcel, and then Executive Park being more of a tax-paying parcel, that they need to be treated differently when it comes to how their services are paid for. So we're going to spend the next few days ruminating on how the Executive Park parcel would come into the city, whether there needs to be a prior agreement or not, or whether the financing of their services can be covered through their tax payments, through a special tax assessment district in the first year. So those are the things we're considering. We're just not ready 100% tonight. We could go ahead and pass these through. I think we're all confident that it's a good thing for Brookhaven, but without having a little more time, a little more certainty, we just don't think it's prudent to go forward as of yet. And I think we need a few days to make sure that we've done everything we need to do from our citizens' perspective to protect their interest. And you can never have a crystal ball and say you know exactly what's going to happen and have a firm grasp on what the future will hold. You make your judgments based on the information you have and on what you believe will happen, and you try to get that as close to 100% as you can. But we know that it'll never be a 100% guarantee on anything. So I think that's the sense of the council. If there's a difference of opinion on this, I'd like to hear it. But
I just have some questions of our council on this. Earl, if you wouldn't mind.
We have Earl Taylor here, who's been the attorney working for the city on this issue to answer some questions.
I'll say first, my hope was that these agreements were finalized by tonight. I know that the delays are unfortunate, and it's difficult for both the city, us as the people voting on it, and the applicant to have these delays. But the question I had regarding CHOA's agreement was that there's a part in here that says Section 3 talks about that when this agreement shall become effective upon annexation by the city of the area and shall be in full force and effect until the earlier of 10 or 7. There seems to be some negotiation there. The issue that I want clarification on is it calls out for a special tax district, but is that applicable in CHOA's case?
Well, yeah, CHOA's property is largely exempt from tax, so
Right.
they will not be paying taxes. The special tax district provision in the CHOA agreement is part of a true-up mechanism that CHOA requested that in the event that the revenues from the special tax district come in above the actual cost of providing services for each year, that CHOA gets credit on future payments for those excess revenues. And so it has, the special tax district has nothing to do with, CHOA is making payments by virtue of contract. They're not a taxpayer for large part. But the special tax district mechanism that we added in the agreement last night, the request of CHOA, is part of a true-up mechanism that just says if you collect more taxes off this special tax district, then your actual cost providing services, that CHOA gets credits on future payments for those excess, for part of those excess revenue collections.
Right.
So
the special tax district would be the total annexation area on this potential.
So
what they're saying is that as those properties potentially transition into tax-paying parcels, that those taxable parcels would be included in that special tax allocated district. And
so,
that's the
yeah. So the
what
thought
number's based on.
the thought is that The city as soon as it annexes, or soon after it annexes the area, would create a special tax district consisting of the entire annexed area. Would levy millage in that special tax district each year sufficient to cover the cost of providing services in that area. Those property owners whose property is subject to ad valorem taxation would pay taxes under the special tax district. That's Executive Park, that's your other private owners. CHOA, most of whose property is exempt from tax, you can't get them to pay by taxes. The only way you can get them to pay is voluntarily by contract, hence the agreement with CHOA. Now, some of CHOA's plans in the future consist of converting some of their exempt property to taxable property as some of that property is developed. As that property is developed, CHOA would become a taxpayer, and as they pay taxes, their contract payments will go down, their tax payments will go up. So that's the general finance plan that we've come up with to pay for the cost of services in the annexed area.
So, Earl, I know this is your area of law, is having an agreement that's whenever it gets finalized with CHOA, and we've got the basic terms down,
right,
and then having just for the Executive Park section to be under the special tax assessment district.
Right.
Are you comfortable with that from a citizen taxpayer perspective?
Yeah.
When you know that our goal is, we think this can be good for the city, and
right,
we want to make sure that our citizens aren't operating in the red for this annexation.
Right.
Are you comfortable with an arrangement whereby there would be part of this is because when you got involved, you started telling us there's realities about things you can and can't do, so
right,
I appreciate that. Are you comfortable with having an agreement, a contract from one parcel, and then having just a tax assessment district on the other that would?
Yeah. I'm a citizen and taxpayer of Brookhaven, so I would be subsidizing these properties if this didn't work. CHOA, the only way you can get them to make payments for the properties that are off digest is by contract. You do have the ability under Georgia law by ordinance to go out there and create a special tax district on the annex area, levy millage on those properties to pay for the cost of servicing those properties. And you could go out and get individual contracts with the property owners in lieu of creating a special tax district,
right,
but that's cumbersome. Those contracts can be rejected in bankruptcy. It's a lot easier just to create a special tax district, assess taxes on them, and if they file bankruptcy, taxes come first.
Right. Okay.
I had just a question or two about the Executive Park Agreement, which is kind of bare bones in terms of what we've seen. So help me understand that they would make a payment up front, and then they would be subject to a special tax district going forward?
Yeah, so the Executive Park Agreement, at this point, may or may not happen. So the reason Executive Park was bare bones was that Executive Park does pay property taxes.
Right.
And once we create the special tax district in 2015, they will pay property taxes in 2015 to help you cover your services in 2015, as well as the other property owners out there. The only reason we put a short agreement out for Executive Park was to try to get Executive Park to make a payment in December of 2014. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get there on the 2014 payment with Executive Park, but we will have revenue coming in from Executive Park through taxes beginning in 2015 as soon as the special tax district is created.
So the special tax district is on top of the other property tax that they would
Right.
be subject to?
Yes. Yes, and Marie has told me that when she did an analysis of the current assessed values of that property and the city's current citywide millage rate, if you took the current citywide millage rate, time the assessed value, factoring in the CHOA properties, which are off digest, there just isn't enough revenue that would come off of that property to cover the cost of the city servicing, providing police services mainly to that property if it was annexed in. So to get the city, to make this revenue neutral for the city, so that people like me and a lot of people in this room aren't subsidizing the cost of annexing this property. We need to go with a special tax district for those properties that do pay taxes, and the contract with CHOA for that don't pay taxes. The special tax district taxes will be millage on top of, and in addition to general citywide millage that they will also pay as city taxpayers when they come in.
So when you say the executive park agreement, this payment may not happen, or the agreement may not happen?
Yeah, I've been back and forth with their lawyer today, and they were hoping to get, if they made a payment in December of this year, they were hoping to get a credit against future taxes for the payment they made in December. And under Georgia law, I'm not sure, I think we're going to have a hard time getting that credit to work. You can't make a payment by contract and then they're credited against your future taxes. So unless their executive parks lawyer and I come up with a brilliant idea in the next day or two, I think what you'll see is executive park will just be a taxpayer, and we'll start paying taxes when the 2015 tax bills come out next fall.
How do you determine a special tax district? By millage, or can you set it by an aggregate number? This is the tax revenue.
So the Constitution has what's known as a uniformity clause. And you'll create, by ordinance, you'll create the special tax district, which is the annexed area. And so all of the taxable properties in that area, which is all tangible, real, and personal property, will be subject to ad valorem tax. You'll set a uniform millage rate for that area. When you set that millage rate, you'll look at your budgeted cost of providing services to that area, and you'll look at the assessed value of the properties in that area to come up with a millage rate you need to have to produce the revenues you need to cover your cost of servicing that area.
And we have to set those millage rates in July, and yet the valuations.
The valuations will come out in, what, March?
March.
Yeah. So you'll need to create a special tax district. Well, the valuations are going to be done regardless, but
on appeal, even what's the last date on appeal for?
I think it's, if I remember, late March. Well, I
well
know when as a homeowner, I think I've got till sometime in March to appeal my assessed value.
So so a millage rate is the answer. It'll have to be done by a millage rate.
When you set your millage rate next summer, you'll figure out the cost of providing services in that district, and then come up with a millage rate based on assessed value in that district.
To that district.
And so we'll have to calculate the millage rate based on the
Valuations.
the valuation of what they currently pay as a regular City of Brookhaven taxpayer,
Right.
and then an additional millage rate for the special.
The assessed value is the same in the special tax district that it is for city, county, and school district purposes. So it's the same assessed value. It gets valued and appealed and determined at the same time in the same manner. You just set a millage rate, notify the tax collector, which is DeKalb County, that within that area, those parcels are going to have this extra tax that's going to be payable to the city.
And related to the assessed value of this area that's actually in a TAD, so the TAD, once that TAD was created, did it cap those assessed values at a value that, was when that TAD was created?
So the way the TAD works is the TAD did not freeze the assessed values. What the TAD did is the TAD said that for those governments that participated in the TAD, which I believe is just the county, I don't think the school board is participating in the TAD, I could be wrong, but just for the county, the taxes collected off of any increase in assessed value of the property after the TAD is collected, instead of going into the county's general fund, goes into the TAD fund to be used for TAD purposes. Now, your citywide taxes, because the city is not participating in the TAD. In fact, the city legally under Georgia law cannot participate in that TAD. There's no provision in Georgia law for a city to participate in a county TAD. A county can participate in a city TAD, but a city can't participate in a county TAD. So your taxes, your citywide millage, and your special tax district millage will not go into that TAD fund. Those monies will come to the city. And so as far as you, the city, is concerned, the TAD is completely irrelevant to you. It's
So the only issue then is that the TAD, will lose, 6% of the value that they used to collect when they created the TAD. How does that TAD, even though they haven't floated any bonds at the county level yet, how do they true up that difference?
So what happens in the TAD, the TAD, the only taxes that are being diverted into the TAD fund are the county taxes at this point. Right now, the county millage that's being diverted is the unincorporated millage. Once you incorporate it, you'll have county incorporated millage, which is a lower millage rate, being diverted into the TAD, and the TAD's just got less revenue. You still in the TAD have the same assessed value increment. It's just a lower millage rate, but that's the risk of any TAD. When you create any TAD, you never guarantee the millage rate is going to be frozen for time eternal. If the government's participating in the TAD decide to cut their millage, that means the TAD has less tax revenue. In this case, some of the TAD property has been annexed. And there's a lower millage rate that applies, which is a risk any TAD in Georgia has.
When a TAD is established, does the school portion of it have to be declared upon the commitment of the TAD, or can they be added later on?
So I wish my partner Sharon Gay, who was the TAD queen and expert, were here. I think when a TAD is created, the school board can participate. They don't have to come in, I'm pretty sure, at the point the TAD is created. I think they can come in later. How much later? I'd have to go look it up in the statute. I do the bond side of the TAD work. Sharon goes out and does all the nuts and bolts part of the TAD
Well,
stuff.
when you look at the ratio of what the county does versus the school board, like the school board is 2/3 value of the mill rate. It's 22.9 versus a 13.9.
Right.
But the assumptions in the TAD were predicated upon the school participating.
Right.
It's stated openly in it, but yet they are not a participant. So when you look at their, the numbers that they've fixed it on, it was $281 million, and they had about $100,000 of taxable base that was locked in.
Right.
And they were predicting it was going to go to $750 million after post-completion. But when you just take the county's portion of it, it makes it really, really small, and if we come in as a city, we're going to be basically skimming a portion of the top part of that won't be going back in.
Not skimming.
Well, not skimming. I didn't mean to use it that way. I'm just saying part of it that would come to that the city's not responsible to participate because we can't participate per your statement.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So when you look at all the anticipated costs that have been covered regionally about all the things they're trying to do in the TAD with sidewalks and road improvements and bike lanes and parks, you're talking about bridges, a new bridge going over potentially over a part of I-85 down by Green's Grocer over there on Deneau Road. I mean, if you're just taking the county's portion of this, it's minuscule in the scheme of things.
Right.
So what is the viability of this TAD?
Yeah, so in virtually every county in Georgia, most of the millage is school district taxes. That's where most of your millage is. And when you create a TAD without school district participation, you're not going to get a whole lot of improvements out of the TAD, whether it's just city millage or county millage. And Sharon, my partner, represented Sembler when this TAD was created, so she's a lot more familiar with the details of the TAD and what they were going to do than I am. And unfortunately, she's at a board meeting, a zoning hearing tonight, couldn't be here.
You had stated earlier that for our purposes of annexation, the TAD is irrelevant to our bottom line.
Yeah.
So
That was the ultimate question. If there is not enough money coming from this TAD to do something of the magnitude that's stated in the TAD, does Brookhaven, anywhere down the road, have any kind of liability for this infrastructure type of?
No.
Can you repeat that, please?
No, there is no legal liability to Brookhaven. as a result of you annexing this property via that TAD that has been created, the county has no recourse against Brookhaven for any tax revenues Brookhaven receives out of this TAD,
That was my ultimate concern.
or out of this property that's in the TAD, right?
All right. Anybody else?
Thank you for
Questions for Earl?
clarifying.
I just wanted to clarify. It's my understanding the special tax district is created basically by an ordinance of the city council.
That's
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so we would pass that, and we would just impose it, and and the property owners would start getting it would be added, a line item to their property tax bill?
Right, that's
Okay.
correct.
So we know they're coming in, especially on Executive Park, on the 60% method. So while we know that some of the property owners are very motivated on this, I have a little concern that we're going to be sending a tax bill to, I don't know, Bank of America or some other folks who weren't expecting to get this additional tax when they became part of the city of Brookhaven. What are the downsides of that?
If any of those people vote for city council and are happy with their tax bill, their only recourse is the political process. It's just like any commercial business in Brookhaven. If you raise your millage rate and they're not happy with their tax bill, they don't go to court, they go to the ballot box. And,
It's just that we don't usually impose a special tax district,
Right.
on a normal.
Right, yeah, the special tax districts, in situations like this, they've been used, but it's not very commonplace.
But what is the mechanism, once we create this and we start imposing the special tax district, when do we decide it ends?
You can terminate the special tax district at any point you want to terminate it. That is within the discretion of council to terminate the tax district, stop levying the tax at any point it wants to. Marie has indicated that as soon as she determines that the general citywide millage, if property develops in that area and assessed values go up, once the assessed values rise high enough based on the general citywide millage to produce enough revenue to pay the cost of servicing that area, there's no need for the special tax district beyond that point. You can terminate it at that point, because then you'll have enough millage coming off of your general citywide millage to cover the cost of servicing that area.
Kind of like the toll coming off of 400.
Right.
But on the CHOA side, we would also impose a special tax district as well. Is that correct?
Well, no, most of CHOA's property is exempt from ad valorem tax.
Right, so we get the contracted amount.
You got a contract, and the contract provides that it terminates on the earlier of, we're going back and forth between 10 years and 7 years, on the earlier 10 years or 7 years, or the earlier of the city being able to show that for two consecutive years, you've got enough revenue off of that property to carry the cost of servicing that property.
Now, I just want to make sure we're being fair to both the property owners that are coming in, fair to our taxpayers, and treat everybody alike, too.
Right.
It's just not in our DNA to be raising taxes when people come into our city like this, so.
I think there's an additional point here, though, and I think, Earl, you might have mentioned to me earlier that in order to actually put this across, 55% of the businesses have to agree to it?
No, that is for the
ID.
for the community improvement district, which is a completely different animal than the special tax.
So this is just by ordinance?
This is just by ordinance. The only action you need to create the special tax district is a city ordinance.
Okay, well, that's something we're going to have to talk about then, I'm sure. We do want to be fair with limits.
I guess we could, if you want to.
Yeah, and you'll have to figure out what your actual costs of service in the area are and what your citywide millage produces off of that area when you figure out, well, how much incremental revenue do you need to break even when you set your millage rate for that special tax district.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Applicants?
Well, we've been here before, and I think that we've addressed all the major problems associated with the CHOA's application. The initial issue was concern that we were attempting to get height and additional density We withdrew that to make it abundantly clear that we aren't trying to do that, that we're just trying to come in as we're currently zoned with our current height. We'll go through the zoning process. If annexed, we'll go through the zoning process in the city of Brookhaven. You'll review the master plan, the zoning. If we need a DRI, we'll go through that process at that time, go through the entire structure or required procedure in the city of Brookhaven, which will give y'all control of what will be your southern entrance into the city. And I think that's one of the major benefits that this provides to the city of Brookhaven. You control your southern boundary, you can control the interchange there, you can sign it, you can landscape it, you can do all kinds of things that will benefit and provide that entrance into the city that you would want to have. We have also tried to deal with our share of expenses. As Earl indicated, we have exchanged contracts. We got a contract this morning at 10:30, turned it around. Y'all got our revised changes just before this meeting started. We're very, very close. Right now, we're in semantics, making sure the mechanics, everybody agrees on the business terms are basically done. So I think that from CHOA's standpoint, they're ready to go forward. They're ready to cut the city a check for their portion of the expenses associated with their side of the road. And that's not an inexpensive endeavor. $342,500 is a lot of money to upfront and pay, and a lot of that's on behalf of other property owners. But they're willing to do that because they believe that there are benefits to being in the city of Brookhaven. It's kind of ironic that we're having to go through all of this, and yet we're, the 8th largest employer in the state of Georgia, and it's almost as if, let's put it what, it's been a little bit more difficult than we anticipated. But we're prepared to go forward on the basis of the red line agreement that we sent to you. I think it's a very fair agreement, and make sure that the citizens of Brookhaven are not funding any costs associated with CHOA's annexation into the city. And I know that this is being viewed as kind of a, both Executive Park and CHOA, but I think we're ready. I think on the Executive Park side, they're prepared to go forward based on the fact that they are all taxable, and you will get that money at the end of 2015. You will have the money. You can do it because you're assessing it. So you're in control. So there's really no risk to the city. So on that basis, we would ask to be brought into the city under our current zoning. I'll be glad to answer any questions you'll have.
To me, the only other sticking point in the agreement was you had originally asked for 5 years. I think then we asked for 10, and now I see.
No, the city originally proposed 5.
Okay.
And then the agreement today came out with 10.
Okay.
And then we came back with a compromise at 7. So the original number from the city was 5. Then it changed this morning, and then we are willing to compromise and meet halfway.
And the thinking is that you wanted an end certain time?
Yes,
Because
absolutely. This is an organization that, although they are a multi-billion-dollar organization, they still look at budgets, and they still look at the issues. And it's very important for them and for their executives to be able to answer the questions, just like y'all have to answer to your voters and your taxpayers. They have to answer to their donors, to their executives, et cetera. And so it's very important that they make sure that they're doing a reasonable agreement, keeping in mind that the city of Atlanta is coming up from the south. They want Executive Park. We could go into the city of Atlanta and pay 0. We could pay 0 into Lakeside, into La Vista Hills. We could stay in DeKalb County and pay 0. So it's, this is a stretch. And we've made a very concerted effort and have responded as quickly as we possibly could to the documents, et cetera. And, you know, this has gone on for a while. So we are asking that y'all take some action, so.
Anybody else have any questions for Woody? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a moment, sir, please. We have a citizen who wants to ask a question. I mean, this is not a public hearing. What's that? Okay. Okay.
I signed up to speak at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, his is not yet. This is Cho.
This gentleman said that he may want it read into the record or he may speak. so
Okay.
people-
Just your name and your neighborhood, please.
Yeah, I'm David Kuniansky. I live at 5370 Northland Drive in the city of Sandy Springs, and have seen sort of the little brother now to Sandy Springs, I guess, at this point. But I'm also a property owner in the part of the property that Councilwoman Williams mentioned that does not have an exemption for being I'm in the CHOA group, but I would be one of the ones which would be assessed for the thing, and I have not had any information. I don't know what agreement any of y'all are doing, so I don't particularly care for the idea of going in blind, not knowing what my property is committing to in a TAD that I may not want to be a part of.
You're in the children's healthcare section?
I'm in the industrial section. I think it's number 3 on your list, the RZ 22. It's got a 22 in it.
Is it a commercial property or
It is
residential?
it is a industrial property, zoned M.
On the eastern side of Druid Hills?
It's where the Performance Bicycle Shop
Okay,
is if
okay.
you're on the ramp there.
So something that you would be interested in knowing is that
Well, I would just be interested in a little transparency in knowing
Yeah.
what are we agreeing to by going in, and it's all predetermined from what I've been listening to that you're going to form a TAD and assess my property additional
No TAD.
fees.
No, Ted, but what I did want to, in the hopes of giving some transparency is that as a commercial property in an unincorporated DeKalb County, you do not get a host tax reduction from your unincorporated tax rate that you're paying on the tax bill.
And if I pay the same tax rate, that's fine, but what I've been hearing is that
No, so if it were to be incorporated within the city of Brookhaven, that you would see almost a 50% reduction in that portion that did used to be an unincorporated tax rate.
Right.
That would be shifted to the city of Brookhaven, and because we don't actually give that host tax reduction for commercial property, we just charge a lower rate, but we charge it to both the same rate to commercial properties and residential. So you would see a large reduction actually by being incorporated in the city of Brookhaven. But all those numbers.
That's good information, but what I've been hearing is we're going to pay
more, a special tax.
A portion of the services that we're not paying now, and there's going to be a new tax added to the property. That's what I've heard for the last 45 minutes.
Well, I'd welcome you to, after the meeting, to talk with our city manager, and let's go through those numbers and figure out exactly what it is for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right, any more questions for staff or anybody, or the applicants, or for Mr. Taylor? Okay. Is there a motion on item number 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
and 6.
6. All right.
All right. As councilman for District 4, I get the honors here. Given the developments today, with what's been going on, it seems in the best interest to once again hold off on a decision this evening on CHOA. But out of respect for the patience and the hard work and the movement that we've had, I'm going to make a motion that we have a special called meeting on Monday evening, December the 8th at 6 p.m. to discuss this issue and hopefully bring it to resolution. 7 o'clock.
So is that motion proper? Does that answer all the things that you need? You're deferring,
I am deferring to Monday evening special call session, December the 8th, 6 p.m.
Items 1 through 6.
On items 1 through 6, reference annexation of CHOA into Brookhaven. Is that sufficient for you? I can't hear you.
I won't be here that evening.
We know.
Yeah, I know.
Also, I
But-
won't be available, but
You're recused.
I'm recused. I just hate to miss these.
I'll second that motion.
But Mr. Taylor's available.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, yeah.
I'll second it. Just,
Any discussion?
yeah, I would like to say that, that I very much would have liked to have seen these issues voted on tonight. The details are a matter of semantics. Woody, I think you expressed it correctly, and that these details, the intent was to have them worked out by tonight, and my hope was that they would be worked out by tonight, and yet they weren't. I apologize to the applicants that we're continuing to bring you before this podium to go through this. I hope that the applicant understands that this is a matter that we have a fiscal responsibility to be able to approve a contract that's finalized and not still being negotiated somewhat. But I just wanted to make that clear.
I'd like to reiterate that. I mean, this is a special circumstance. This is a different type of annexation that we haven't ever considered. We're a newer city. We respect your decision-making processes and want to come to the city of Brookhaven. We appreciate that. It's we just need to make sure for the benefit of our taxpayers that everything is taken care of. And I said that last week. I thought it'd be done by this week. The holidays interfered with that, obviously. I thought it would be a little bit less complex, and it is simple in a way, but it is complex at the same time. If you would ask your board to please bear with us a little bit more, that we have to, part of us trying to do things the right way, I think that's one of the reasons you want to come in. Our permitting process doesn't operate like this. I just want to let you know. This is a political issue and a philosophical issue for our citizens and for us. So we just have to, as stewards of our the trust that our citizens have placed with us, we have to make sure that we do things very thoroughly, especially on something like this. So we appreciate your patience, and we appreciate staff's hard work on this, and we appreciate Mr. Taylor and the applicant's attorneys on this as well.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the folks from CHOA for everything you've done in working with us. We are really trying to do our due diligence on this and make sure it's the absolute best for all parties. It's also a message to the residents out there that we are really looking at what we're trying to do here very purposefully. And I know as you consider doing what you're doing, we'll look at that just as seriously as we're looking at this. Marie, I know that you're heading out here sometime later this week. Can I like to call upon you to make sure that we tomorrow move this thing to the next phase and get it done earlier than later, obviously, and let us have time to digest what is going to be the final round to the lawyers. I'll put that request out to you also.
We can speak directly with Mr. Taylor, can we not?
Of course.
And you'll be in we want you to enjoy your time off, but if you can just do a couple little things, I would appreciate it.
I worked all Thanksgiving, so I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
Well, I would just add my thanks to the hard work of all of our staff and city manager, especially and the applicants. my desire all along has been to simply have the final agreement before us and hopefully to have posted it on our website at least 24 to 48 hours to give our citizens a chance to look at it as well. So if we can achieve that, I think we're pretty close to, approving this or making a decision on it. So if we can just, I've told my husband I wouldn't have bought a house without having seen the final contract. So let's just see the final, and I know it's close, so I'm very optimistic, and I look forward to next Monday.
All right. Thank you. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion for deferral signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the item's deferred. Number 7 through, what?
His motion was to have a special call.
Monday, the 8th.
Okay.
Well, I thought he did. I
Thought he did.
restated it as a deferral.
1 through 6.
1 through 6 is not sufficient anymore. You want to go through it one more time, right?
Just to state 1 through 6.
He said 1 through 6. Items 1 through.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I was hearing about the special call meeting.
It was to cover 1 through 6.
1 through 6.
Okay.
Okay, and then 7 through,
That's a second. That's going to
right,
happen.
7 through 12, 13. 7
A
through,
separate motion here now, right?
7 through 13, yes.
All right.
Item 7 through 13. We got to vote on this one. Well, you don't need to vote.
So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion.
Yes.
Okay, because,
Wait, we got to hear from the applicant.
yes, Carl?
Thanks, Carl Westmoreland, 3343 Peachtree Road. I'll be brief and cover both the rezoning and annexation issues. I think we've sort of beat it to death, but we are not asking for any changes in rezoning, and we'll say again, as we have before, that we've got a side agreement with La Vista Park that was entered to in conjunction with the DeKalb rezoning. We'll be glad to re-execute that. With regard to the annexation and the payment that you've been discussing tonight, there was an understandable difference between what we thought we had discussed with the city and what Mr. Taylor is now telling you that you can and can't do. I think what he's proposed tonight is workable, and we would hope that we can come in on that basis on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Did you need to say anything? Okay. All right. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we defer the decision on Executive Park annexation into Brookhaven for a special called meeting on Monday evening, December the 8th at 6 p.m., and this will cover points 7 through 13.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Was that?
Is that correct? Items 7 through 13? Is that okay? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of deferral of items 7
Well,
through?
I do want one comment on discussion.
Okay.
We found it very, very difficult to separate, for approval purposes, Executive Park from CHOA. And Executive Park's decision was further away than CHOA's, so unfortunately, to keep them together, I've made the decision here to go ahead and put in this motion for the special called meeting. So if we would have handled Executive Park first, you would have heard that comment.
Confirmed 7 o'clock, right?
6
6
o'clock.
o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yes,
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
That was a 7 o'clock appointment.
At 7 on
He did not, he
I
said
did
6.
not. I said 6 p.m.
All right. We got a lot of conversations going on over here.
No, I'm
so-
sorry.
back and forth. Okay, 6
There's another meeting they were talking about.
Yeah. There was a gasp from the
Okay.
audience.
Is there was a second. Discussion, any more discussion? All in favor of the deferral signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the item's deferred. Okay. We're on new business ordinances. What we're going to do on the smoking, we're going to come back on that one, right?
Well,
There were some
I
changes.
think you wanted to see the changes
Right.
as far as with and without the electronic cigarettes, if
Right.
that's what they're called, and I think everybody else was ready to.
Well, there was another thing, too,
We
about
want to
the.
do the outside dining thing.
Right.
Okay, all right. Then we wish to, we wish to
The Monday?
defer that, let's defer that one until the next meeting.
All right.
Also, we wish to defer the ordinance relating to the
Wreckers?
wreckers.
Okay.
And
Weeds?
we can pass weeds if you
Okay.
want to.
All right, so is there a motion to defer items 1 and 2 until the special call meeting on Monday?
On Monday?
Yeah, we'll do it Monday.
Can you get it done before Monday?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Laura will be here. I'm recused.
All right. Nothing else besides these things.
But these two.
Is there a second? Or did anybody make a motion?
No.
No, make a motion?
Well, I'm trying to see where. hold
It's
on.
items 1 and 2 on new business.
That doesn't have all the ordinance numbers on it, so let me just find it and I'll. Okay. All right, I move that we defer item number 1 under new business, ordinance 2014-11-07, consideration and approval of ordinance to adopt Chapter 13, Public Health of the Code of Ordinances. Can I do them both?
Yes.
And also to defer item number 2, ordinance 2014-11-19, consideration and approval of ordinance to amend Chapter 15, adopting new Article 13 about wreckers.
You can do that to the December 15th meeting if you want, just to make the clean agenda.
And I defer it to our next regularly scheduled council meeting to December 16th.
Is it 16th or 15th?
16th.
Okay, all right.
Second.
All right, any discussion? That was a second by John there. All in favor of the deferral, signify so by saying aye.
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 All opposed? All right, number 3, weeds. This is an ordinance dealing with making sure that our code enforcement has the authority to cite someone whose grass has grown 12 inches or more. Okay.
I move that we approve ordinance 2014-11-20, consideration and approval of ordinance adoption, Chapter 18, Article 6, Section 18-101-105, weeds.
If I may, with the amendment in section 18-101 to 12 inches.
Yes, thank you.
As stated by council.
Yes. Per the amendment, Section 18-101, changing the inches from 10 to 12 inches as per council.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adopting the ordinance, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
This just clarifies what's in our nuisance report,
All right.
nuisance ordinance.
Public comments.
Dale Boone.
On the weed stuff?
We got, you don't have to fill out another form, but just wait till the people,
Dale Boone.
Dale Boone.
Mayor, City Council, let us get this thing to a close come on the 8th. I'm actually leaving to the airport on the 8th, but you know something? I will be here. You're at 6 o'clock, my plane leaves at 11:30 that night. So could you at least give me a Christmas present?
Where you go?
Could you please? I'm going to miss y'all. I guess it's going to be my last public speaking unless on the 8th. I'm sure I'm going to be kind of busy, tied up, so if I don't say much on the 8th, forgive me. You're in my hearts. Take care of my city. I love it.
Thank you.
And I will really miss you guys. I really mean that.
I know you will be down.
Because the place I'm going to is very dangerous. So I pray to God I'll come back to you. See you later.
All right.
Thanks, Dale. Have a safe trip.
Yes. Dale's going to India.
Terrell Karstens.
Good evening. Terrell Karstens, 2444 East Nella Drive, speaking as a private citizen only. The only question I have is concerning the budget. Marie had mentioned that there's worksheets and backup sheets that she'll supply to you all. Will those be made public
Yes.
too? Because this needs to be a little more itemized.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
When
Thank
we
you.
get them, you'll get them, yeah.
Ronnie Mayer.
real short and sweet. I'm gonna be here, I'm not leaving. On the thing with code enforcement, I still think we need to change code enforcement to be under PD. You could use these guys in uniforms to do traffic. You could do, it's a waste of time and money right now, how we're doing it. We need them in uniforms. Then that way they have a badge, and you can use them early in the morning to do traffic at schools, and they could do the policing of around the neighborhoods. But the way we're doing it now is not working. And I'm gonna tell y'all, like when we had the issue with the Pink Pony, they had 300 employees buying gas, buying groceries and stuff. Children's Healthcare has got, what, 1,800 employees? Think of all those people buying gas, buying groceries. If we do a new center with a...
Buying houses.
Buying houses, doing anything around there, open up a new grocery store. They're going to be buying stuff in Brookhaven. And that tax dollar was never mentioned by any of y'all. But that's a lot of money. That's gas, that's groceries, that's other commodities, and that adds up to a lot too. So to have 1,800 more people, and then whoever really comes on after them, other doctor's offices or this or that and other adds on, it's just going to keep on. Other insurance companies want to be real close to Children's Healthcare. They're going to come over there, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mark Kuchera.
Thanks. This is impromptu because I wasn't expecting this weeds thing, but I know you've already voted it, but can you define what a weed is? And I know it sounds technical, but on the corner of Cates and Osborne, I have a very large garden, and it's under large trees and stuff like that. What would be the definition of a nuisance versus a weed versus a flower? Who determines that?
Susan, is Ben gone? Can you answer that question?
In the ordinance.
It's called weeds, but I think this is for unkempt lawns.
Or improved properties, I'm not sure what that means, but. Because, I mean, I have a very large corner garden, and have you seen it before? Well,
No, but it's a good question.
yeah, and so
I have seen
if
it.
someone walks up and goes, these are weeds, and I'm like, no, these are indigenous Georgia plants I collect from all over, blah, blah, blah. I mean, who determines? A weed is a preference, it's not really a class of plant.
What's stated in here is that it's grass, weeds, and/or undergrowth.
Right,
So
so
it's a
undergrowth,
broad-
I also have a big chestnut tree or hickory nut, so it's also underneath the tree, so, and it's on a corner, so I just want to know.
This section was already in our community development code. This is just an enforcement section. So the definitions were already there. I
Okay.
think that, if we went around and started taking up people's gardens, I think.
It's been there since 2001.
Right, that's my
Yeah.
point. I think that there would be go ahead.
And typically, that's a matter that's more complaint-driven, and it's a situation where property's been neglected or overgrown. There's concern about neglect of the property, collection of trash and debris. Typically, people that have overgrown areas like that, we've gotten complaints about theft and hiding in those areas. So when we receive a request or a complaint about weeds, we investigate the situation, and it's typically an unkept or neglected area.
Okay, so as long as I'm taking care of it and it's 6 feet tall, you're not gonna
As long as it
declare it
doesn't-
a weed?
No, it's.
Because some of my neighbors think they're weeds, but it's actually a very beautiful garden.
The only other issue I think there could be is if there's some growth obstructing safety lines of sight for passengers or pedestrians or
Right,
drivers.
right.
the
That's
only-
that's a traffic thing.
Right,
I
right.
get that. Okay.
This already was in our code section. We just.
Yeah,
this is a-
I was just here, this just caught my attention. I just wanted to comment. I appreciate it.
Well, we carried this over from DeKalb, didn't we?
There's actually a couple of sections. One relates to the International Property Maintenance Code, wherein the city adopted that code, and we identified, and for our purposes, what the height of that should be. And I know that Laura was working on dealing with the DeKalb County section to retrofit that, and we wanted to make sure they were consistent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this isn't some newfangled thing that
Okay,
was novel.
I didn't know if it was new or not. I was just wondering. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next? All right, we'll close public comments. Mayor's comments? Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I don't need an executive session. Is there a motion?
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do? We need
For real
exec-
estate.
Okay, we need executive session. All right.
I move that we, make a motion, we move into executive session.
Is there a second? How about, can we take a 3-minute recess before I'd like to do a recess before we go into an executive session. Yeah, let's take a 3-minute recess.
I
before
withdraw
so
my
we can
motion.
speak about things without, you withdraw the motion. And then we'll come right back and make that motion and go into executive session.
You want to just,
Yeah.
Who's second? Who's sec, you just gonna,
We're going into recess.
oh, then
We're in
you-
recess.
Okay.